Previously on the proposal that wasn't, Jide revealed his plan to propose to the love of his life, leaving Oma brimming with excitement, certain she was the one. Her heart raced as she dreamed of the perfect moment. But is love as simple as it seems? Get ready to uncover the unexpected twist. Watch what happens next. Welcome to episode 2, part DEVIDE. After Jide left, Oma got a call from her grandmother who told her she was on her way to her dorm to visit and drop some money for her upkeep. Oma was happy, her day was going better than planned. She couldn't wait to tell her grandmother the good news. Her grandmother arrived at her dorm room and she gave her a big hug. Her grandmother noticed how happy she was and asked her about it. Oma told her everything and her grandmother could see the happiness in her eyes. Her grandmother wished her well because she knew it was her granddaughter's deepest wish to marry her childhood best friend. Oma, thrilled, started to get ready. She wore her late mother's prom dress, which she carried with her to the university as it was her only expensive clothing. It was the only girly clothes she had and it was her most valuable possession. Lovingly styled her hair and prepared the suit she bought for Jide. But just as she was about to leave, she found her grandmother lying weak on the floor. Panicked, she rushed her to the hospital, staying by her side until the doctor walked into the room. The doctor revealed that her grandmother had a severe heart condition.
It's in a dangerous stage,
He explained, his voice calm but serious. Turning to Oma's grandmother, he asked if she'd been experiencing symptoms regularly. Her grandmother nodded, admitting quietly that it had been happening often. Oma's heart sank. She hadn't known any of this. Sensing her worry, the doctor reassured Oma, saying,
"Don't panic. She'll be fine with proper care. Just make sure she avoids stress, hard work, and certain foods that could aggravate her condition."
Then he left the room. Around 1 p.m., the grandmother, seeing Oma's anxious look, insisted she go to meet Jide, urging her not to miss the opportunity she'd waited so long for. But Oma wanted to know why she kept her illness away from her for so long. Her grandmother asked her to stop speaking and told her that her wish is to see her happy with Jide because she knows how much Oma loves him. She forced her to leave and hurry to meet him, assuring her granddaughter she was much better and in safe hands at the hospital. The doctor also told Oma to go because her grandmother was out of danger. Oma promised to return with Jide as soon as possible. Oma reluctantly left, catching a ride as quickly as she could. Traffic was thick, and her heart pounded as she kept glancing at the time. She noticed it started to rain, but she didn't care. She arrived at the entrance of the garden just as the clock struck 2 p.m. As Oma hurried toward the garden, raindrops fell steadily, soaking her dress and clinging to her hair. She clutched the gift box in her hands, its edges damp but still intact, a small symbol of her hope and her heart. Each step she took was filled with anticipation, a mixture of nerves and excitement swirling within her. Her mind replayed Jide's words, the way he'd chosen the necklace with her by his side. With each stride, her heart pounded, her breath catching as she thought of what this moment might hold. She stepped into the garden, where mist from the rain hung like a delicate veil over the familiar path. In the distance, she saw a figure standing beneath a canopy at their special spot. Her pace quickened as she held the gift tighter, the box pressing into her palms as she imagined the happiness waiting just a few steps ahead. But then, through the haze of rain, she froze. Her breath caught, and her heart seemed to stop. There was Jide, down on one knee, but beside him stood another girl. It was her roommate Grace. Oma's gift slipped from her hands, as realization crashed over her. Realizing that all his questions and gestures hadn't been meant for her. Her vision blurred, though she couldn't tell if it was the rain or the tears stinging her eyes. She felt the cold seeping through her skin as the warmth of her hope faded away, replaced by the sharp sting of betrayal. She stood in the pouring rain, her heart pounding like a war drum, as she watched him declare his love to someone else. How could he betray me like this? She thought to herself. The darkness whispering in her mind, tempting her with thoughts of revenge. Would it be so wrong to make him feel the pain he's caused me? She thought to herself. As she stood there watching him put the very necklace he tried on her in the store around Grace's neck, professing his love, her fury fueled her resolve. She imagined walking up to them and confronting him, the words she'd unleashed sharp as daggers, striking right at his heart. But she fled in anger, unable to process the betrayal and confusion that tore through her. She fled back to the street. With each step she wondered, what if I show him the true cost of betrayal? What if I ruin him? But as she ran through the storm, breathless and consumed by rage, a question lingered in her mind: how far am I willing to go to reclaim my broken heart? She asked herself quietly. Then she remembered her grandmother in the hospital and she decided to return to her. She got a taxi to take her back to the hospital, her heart breaking. Amma rushed into the hospital, her heart aching with the pain of betrayal. The doctor noticed her distressed expression and sensed something terrible had happened. Just hours earlier, Amma had been worried about her grandmother's illness, but now, she looked utterly heartbroken. Gently, the doctor tried to comfort her, warning her softly.
Amma, don't let your grandmother see you like this. Any distress could worsen her condition.
She understood the weight of his words, though she struggled to mask her sorrow. When her grandmother asked her how the proposal went, Amma felt a sharp stab in her heart. She wanted to break down and cry, but she remembered the doctor's warning. Smiling faintly, she managed to say, "It went well, Nana. I'll tell you all about it when you're better." Her grandmother's face lit up with joy, and Amma's heart shattered further, knowing she was hiding the painful truth. Amma spent the entire night by her grandmother's side, her own sorrow weighing heavily on her. The next morning, she returned to her dorm room to change her clothes and prepare some food for her grandmother, doing everything in a daze of heartbreak. As she cooked, tears slipped down her cheeks uncontrollably. Just as she was about to leave for the hospital, Jide and Grace walked into the room and saw her crying. Grace, unaware of Amma's pain, asked gently why she was upset. Amma forced herself to smile, saying, "My grandmother's been unwell, I'm just worried about her." Grace offered her sympathy, unaware that she was the cause of Amma's heartbreak. Meanwhile, Jide stood back silently, wrestling with his thoughts. He was planning to tell Amma that Grace was his girlfriend now. Certain she would understand he'd never meant to propose to her. Little did he know, Amma had seen everything in the garden and knew of his betrayal. After Grace's brief sympathy, Amma excused herself and returned to the hospital, each step a painful reminder of her shattered heart. Her grandmother's health improved slightly over the next few days. The doctor informed Amma that her grandmother would be discharged the next day, as her health had improved, and the hospital could no longer continue treatment with the little cash Amma was able to provide. Feeling like a failure for not being able to afford the bills despite all her grandmother had done to raise her, Amma knew she had no choice. Her grandmother couldn't stay in the dorm room, and Amma needed to save money for her return home. Not wanting her grandmother to be alone, and unable to bear the constant sight of Jide and Grace, Amma decided to leave for her hometown with her grandmother immediately after her discharge. That afternoon, she rushed home and packed up all her belongings, and went to see Tond, Jide's roommate. She told him her grandmother was ill, so she had to go back with her and look after her. Tond told her he'll miss her and wished her well. She said goodbye and left. Amma returned to her dorm room and waited for Grace to come back that night. When Grace arrived, Amma shared her plans to leave for her hometown the next day. Grace pleaded with her to stay until after their graduation, but Amma explained she needed to care for her ailing grandmother. Though Grace understood, she begged her to reconsider and even offered to give up her bed so Amma's grandmother could stay. Amma appreciated the gesture but firmly declined. That night, as Grace lay in bed, she couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was driving Omar to leave so suddenly. Still, she chose not to press further, knowing Omar's mind was already made up. After she left that day, Grace found a letter she left, telling her she returned home with her grandmother, asking her not to worry. Omar also wrote a letter to the school board requesting them to please send her certificate via delivery to her hometown as she couldn't stay for the ceremony due to her grandmother's illness. The school understood and did just that. Few days before graduation, Grace asked Jide if he knew exactly why Omar went away. Jide shrugged, dismissing it as something not worth worrying over, telling Grace to focus on their relationship and their upcoming graduation. What he didn't know was that Grace had failed her exams and wouldn't be graduating. On the day of graduation, Jide looked for her, but didn't see her. When he called to ask why she was absent, Grace lied, claiming her auntie died so she had to return to her village. Sympathetic, he sent her money and wished her well. Meanwhile, Grace was in the home of one of the old men she was involved with. After graduation, Jide told his family about Grace, and they approved of the marriage, with one condition: they wanted to meet her parents first. But Grace broke down in tears, revealing that she had lost her parents at 15. She said her aunt raised her and took good care of her. Jide, family already aware that Grace just buried her auntie, felt sorry for her because her only guardian was gone. Moved by her story, his family accepted her as part of their own. Jide had invited Ton, his former college roommate and close friend, to join the celebration of his upcoming wedding. The day before the big event, Ton arrived at Jide's family home. He stepped out of a yellow taxi with his suitcase in hand. As he glanced around, his eyes fell on Jide and Grace standing side by side at the gate, their hands intertwined and smiles lighting up their faces. Jide took Ton's suitcase and welcomed him warmly. Ton was surprised to see his bride-to-be was no other person but Grace, the lady he secretly admired. But Ton accepted his loss and celebrated with them. Jide and Grace got married traditionally in Jide's hometown, the very town where Omar lived, now nursing her broken heart in silence. During the party, when they were alone, Ton said to Jide,
"So Jide, this is a beautiful party, but I can't help but wonder why I haven't seen Omar anywhere. I mean, she's your best friend from childhood, so she of all people should be present today of all days. Where is she?"
Jide said to Ton,
"I don't know, and honestly I don't care. She's probably somewhere enjoying her poor miserable life."
Coming up in the proposal that wasn't, as Jide's wedding unfolds, Omar's world is about to shatter with something she never saw coming. How will she handle the betrayal? Find out in episode 3, The Unveiling.